You know, I think I need some positivity after the last two videos. But not too much positivity. Sonic fan games. They can be really, really good, or they can be on new grounds. Oh boy, that was a thing. I loved making the last Sonic fan games video, so here we go again. Sonic Fan Games 2. We've got a lot to get through today, so let's dive right in. Sonic Before the Sequel. I've seen a lot of positive buzz around this game. It looks good, and I didn't really play many 2D Sonic fan games last year, so I'm making up for that now. This game feels spot on. The physics are there. The game feels good. It plays just like classic Sonic. And the level design is pretty good too. Honestly, at first, I didn't think that I'd have much to say about this game. It's just good. It's just a good, solid game. But pretty quickly I realized this game's main flaw, at least in my eyes, the performance. Bad frame rate in a Sonic game is not good, it just feels bad. And very quickly in this game, the frame rate dropped. It was pretty noticeable to me at least. Like this special stage here, I'm actually having trouble playing through it. It's really hard to look at. It's like one of those optical illusion things. It's messing with my eyes. I don't know if any of this comes across as well in the recording, but the game's performance definitely hurt my enjoyment of it a little bit. On top of this, although the level design is pretty good and very reminiscent of the original games, with that comes the same problems that those games often had. Because no, the first three Sonic games were not perfect. The biggest issue is when there's just simply not enough time to react to traps or enemies. It can be really annoying. Making this game widescreen would have helped with that. It would have given you more space to see before you run into something. But, oh well, I guess making it closer resemble the original games was more important to them. When this game is running well though, it's awesome. It's very enjoyable. I cannot stress that enough. And not only does it feel like a classic Sonic title, but it looks just like one as well. The graphics, for the most part, are great. There's the occasional section where it's difficult to see where you can stand and where you can't, but yeah, for the most part, it looks really good. And the music is awesome too. This game has a legitimate soundtrack, like a full original soundtrack, and it's amazing. The music is catchy, of very high quality, it feels like Sonic music. Each track fits its accompanying level, it's just great. And I hear hints of songs from other Sonic games, like Sonic Adventure and Sonic Colors. It's really pleasant to listen to. Oh yeah, and this game has a plot, too. With the title Before the Sequel, I guess this game was meant to tell the story of what happened between Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. I kind of thought that that's what Sonic CD did, but hey, what do I know? I didn't make a game. That one doesn't count. Actually, the plot kind of confuses me. Sometimes it heavily resembles the art style and specific cutscenes from Sonic CD, but it's different. And Tails is here, stalking Sonic. That's pretty much the plot, I think. Sonic is after Eggman again for some reason, and Tails is chasing after Sonic, telling the story of them meeting for the first time. Admittedly, I don't really care. Story's not really important to me in a game like this. Though I will say that these cutscenes are only okay. I mean, the rest of the game looks and feels just like a classic Sonic game on the Sega Genesis. But the cutscenes just don't. They feel more like flash animations than official Sonic cutscenes. They didn't feel very fitting to me personally. But they're optional, you can turn them off, and they get the job done okay. These are really just nitpicks though. The game is ultimately very good. Even with the performance issues that I had, I still can't say that it's a bad game at all. It's a really, really, really good Sonic fan game. With that, let's move on to game number 2, Sonic Robo Blast. Oh, this was probably a bad idea starting with the good one. This game doesn't, it doesn't really hold up very well against Before the Sequel. Really makes me appreciate that game even more. To be fair, this game was made in 1998, while Before the Sequel is from 2012. It's a 2D platformer. You know, it's actually very impressive considering when it came out. But judging it today, it's pretty rough. Every time it loads up the background music, the entire game freezes, like it has to load. And the control is akin to a bad Flash game. It's very common for me to jump on an enemy, and instead of just killing that enemy, I get hit. This is a very common occurrence. I almost always get hit and lose my rings when I attack enemies. I'll just jump on them, perfectly fine, I didn't mess up, I'll even kill them, but I still get hit. The game's also pretty glitchy. In fact, it's very glitchy. Like repeatedly sticking to walls and ceilings glitchy. Like not being able to move glitchy. Like teleporting underneath the screen and then getting trapped in this room over here with no way out glitchy. Oh god, he really just incinerated, huh? Just a million little pieces. That is harsh. I guess I'll mention the graphics. Well, I mean, just look at it. It's simple. I think that's a good word for it. And the artwork for Sonic specifically, this has to be a joke, right? Like, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody or the game that they made, but, I mean, look at Sonic. A lot of fan games use assets from the games that they're based on, but as far as I can tell, these are completely original sprites. Very weird, very funny original artwork. Even if you're not the best artist around, I can't look at this and not think that it was completely intentional. I mean, look at Sonic's run cycle. This is legitimately funny. This is funny stuff. The guy who made this game had to know what he was doing. They had a sense of humor. The game's plot is evidence for this as well. It's also pretty silly. Hey, what's with Robotnik this morning? Hello, Sonic. How are you? Robotnik, what the heck are you up to? Oh. Shut up and listen, you blue, pesky, annoying hedgehog. Oh, burn. I will take over this planet, stealing. Okay, I hate to spoil your party, but not against me anyway. Ha ha ha, I'll have a surefire victory if you. Yeah, right. Just wait till I catch you. The current writers for the official Sonic games could learn something from this. This is drama. It has a multiplayer mode as well, which is pretty random, very unexpected. There's not much to say about it. You get 5 new one-screen levels to play, and you race to the end of each one. It's kind of impressive, but this is nothing to write home about. You'd have to be pretty desperate to find this multiplayer mode legitimately fun. Oh, hell yeah! You see that? You see that skill? This game is awesome! You only beat me because you cheated. You glitched through the floor. Cheated? I think you mean skillfully played. I'm what you would call a strategist. I saw that I could, with enough skill, take a well-hidden shortcut. So I did. I think what we should really be discussing right now is why the hell is there a mouse cursor on the screen? The mouse cursor is on the screen, dude! What is this? What kind of amateur operation is this, man? I can't work like this. Yeah, we're done. This game is something, alright. I'll give it that. And considering when it was made, this game is not awful. It's just primitive. Oh, and the game crashed on me. So, Sonic Robo Blast, everybody. Next game. And the next game is actually a sequel to Sonic Robo Blast, appropriately named Sonic Robo Blast 2. And wow. A real leap in quality, jeez. They apparently made this game using a modified version of the Doom Legacy port of Doom. So they made this Sonic game using the game engine from Doom. That is very impressive. As you can see, they went from a non-scrolling 2D platformer to a full 3D platformer, with multiple characters who all play differently, huge 3D levels, several different unique and memorable zones, a wholly original soundtrack which kicks butt. And quite honestly, an aesthetic that I personally really like. I find the 2D sprites in a 3D environment look very charming. I'm getting ahead of myself, one thing at a time. The game controls, well, actually it controls pretty darn good, though not perfectly. Gone is the awful hit detection and glitches, but here is the obtuse camera control. I wanted to play this game in third-person mode, but I didn't want the camera to just follow behind me. I wanted to make it feel as much like a 3D platformer as possible. But when selecting the analog mode, you ironically make it so that you can't control the camera with the right stick. So I ended up having to set the camera control to the bumper buttons. This was kind of annoying to set up, but ultimately it didn't really take me long to get used to it. It worked fine. What doesn't work as well with me though is the fact that the level design often does not complement Sonic's speed very much. His acceleration is through the roof, especially with his mid-air dash, which is totally fine in more open levels and areas. But it's absolute torture in the later levels, levels where you have to jump between very small platforms, avoiding enemies and instant death traps. It's really not fun. Like this Castle Eggman level. My God, I did not have fun here. So many deaths, so much overshooting jumps, so many enemies. Sonic is by his very essence not precise enough for this. It's a prime example of the gameplay not always matching with the level design. And what's weird is that the next level after this one is actually a lot better. Arid Canyon Zone is fun. It had a lot of the same stuff in it, but merely making the platforms and paths bigger and wider helps so much. This level is filled with tons of really fun segments, and the level after this is great too. It's still difficult, but it's open and forgiving enough that it was a blast to play. A Robo Blast 2. This section here was a lot of fun, leaping from platform to platform as they fall into the lava below. But the fun can't last forever, because after that is the final level, Egg Rock Zone. So hard, so difficult, so cruel, so demanding. Death after death after death. Something I really love about this game is that it constantly introduces new gameplay mechanics as you play. This jello water that bounces you around, these tracks that you can grab onto and ride over pits, these chains that you spin around on and launch yourself off of. A ton of effort was put into this game and the level design in it. And when it's good, it's really good. But yeah, when it's bad, it's not super fun. Playing as Tails instead of Sonic actually solves a lot of this frustration, but then it kind of just feels like sort of cheating. With Tails you can fly, obviously, but you can fly very far in this game, so playing as Tails basically just feels like you're playing on super easy mode. You can just circumvent everything, fly over every platforming challenge, zoom past all of the bottomless pits, avoid most of the enemies. I guess my problem is that when you play as Sonic, it's pretty damn fun, but it gets way too difficult near the end. Like, so tedious, so unfair. But if you play as Tails, those last levels are much easier. But the game overall is way too easy and kind of boring. Oh, and then there's Knuckles. He's okay, I guess. The controls for gliding are weird. It's hard to explain, but you turn really sharply and it just doesn't feel great. I didn't play much as Knuckles, honestly. Tails, though! I had to give up on the final zone as Sonic. It was impossible. But as Tails, it was actually still really, really hard. My god, even in super easy Tails mode, Egg Rock Zone is still impossible. It's sadistic. These final couple levels just ate through all of my lives. I had 29 lives when I reached Egg Rock Zone Act 1, and by the end of Act 3, I had 5. That's a lot of death. This level is just death after death after death after death after death. And I mean, it's not like I don't have anything nice to say about it. It has a lot of positive qualities. This zone alone introduces so many insanely clever mechanics and ideas. There's these disappearing platforms straight out of Mario, these elevators that push you into the ceiling, sections where you're thrown into space and you have no oxygen, sections where the gravity changes, side-scrolling segments, this part here where you enter this machine and it shrinks you down and makes everything around you bigger. This level is clever as hell. Way too hard though. At least the music in this level is great. If not for that, then I probably would have gone insane by now. And I don't just mean that it's good, not just okay. This music is freaking amazing. The entire soundtrack is so good. I could hear these songs playing in official Sonic games. It's very impressive, and most of the music got stuck in my head for quite a while after playing. I guess I should talk about the multiplayer too, because, like the first game, there is a multiplayer mode. When playing through this game as Sonic, you can choose to have Tails follow behind you, and a second player can pointlessly attempt to control him, just like in the classic games. This sucks, I can't keep up with you! This is impossible! Yeah, I mean, it's a fun gimmick, but it works even less well than it did in the original games. And it didn't really work there, either. The camera always follows player 1, so you're always just gonna fly off the screen immediately and not get to play. And it's made even worse in 3D. But hey, I'm player 1, so I don't mind it. There is an actual multiplayer mode as well. There's a split-screen co-op mode, which is pretty much what it sounds like. It's fun, it's a good addition. Then there's the competition mode, where you race to see who can complete the level first. Another fun mode, pretty self-explanatory. Then there's match mode, which is like a first-person shooter mode, where you have to kill each other. I couldn't get the camera control in the first person to work for me with the control setup that I had, but I was able to play it in third-person mode. There's also hide-and-seek mode. This is really scraping the bottom of the fun barrel. You know, when all of the fun is gone and you're just scraping up dirt. While looking for a spot to hide, I guess I ran out of time, and so I was just standing here, out in the open. Great. And then I got to just sit here for several long, agonizingly boring minutes while I waited to be found. Even when standing on top of a bed, just standing there out in the open, it still took quite a while for Mike to find me, with how big this level is. This is not a great mode. I wouldn't really recommend it. Just stick to the co-op or competitive modes. Those modes are actually pretty fun. There were no floors for me to glitch through this time, so I never got to win! This sucks! Okay, I think that's enough Sonic Robo Blast games for one day. Overall, this game is incredibly good, though not without its flaws. It sucks, because these aren't really easy fixes. My biggest problem with the game is some of the core level design, and the only way to really fix that would be to completely redesign some of the levels, making the platforms larger and spaced further apart. But the music is amazing, the graphics are good, it controls very well, it's extremely ambitious. And I didn't even mention this before, but there are like special collectibles you can find, some of which put you in special stages where you can get Chaos Emeralds, and these special stages are literally just Nights into Dreams, except you're Supersonic instead of the Knights character. And these stages are very polished, it feels very good, and it's really fun. They didn't need to do this, they could have just had a collect the rings kind of minigame for getting the Chaos Emeralds, but this is impressive. And I mean, when you look at the game as a whole, at the end of the day, I finished the whole game. I beat the entire thing. I didn't even do that for before the sequel, and that game was really good too. So this game definitely did something to hook me in. Next up, a game that's pretty similar to Sonic Roboblast 2 in some ways. Sonic Utopia. This isn't actually a full fan game, it's just a demo, a single level, but my god, what a demo. This game is effectively a proof of concept, an open world, classic style, 3D Sonic game. And this definitely makes me want an actual 3D open world Sonic game, my god. You're just tossed into this huge 3D green hill zone, and then you just run. It definitely captures the fun of the original classic Sonic games and translates it directly into 3D better than possibly any official 3D Sonic game. And what it captures specifically is the use of momentum. You have to gain momentum by rolling down slopes at the right times and then keep that momentum long enough to leap through the air or go through a loop. There's no speed boosts or automatic segments or springs that cause you to launch off really fast. It's just you. It's all you, running. You see a big loop far in the distance? Well, you're gonna have to find a ramp and roll down it and gain enough speed to make it through. This makes it feel so good and rewarding when you do manage to keep yourself moving fast. And even just being able to see all of the level waiting for you in the distance and knowing that, hey, I'm gonna get to run over there, is so cool. Sonic controls very well. The camera control is a little touchy, but overall the controls are definitely tight. And I don't think I need to say this, but the graphics are pretty nice too. Simplistic, sort of just taking the style of Sonic 1 but making it 3D, but it runs smoothly and it just looks really very nice. And the music is nice too. It's a nice kind of relaxing remix of Green Hill Zone. Sadly, with this just being one level, there's not really much else for me to add. But if you haven't played this, you should, and Sega should definitely take note of this when designing future games, because this is novel. I feel like the Sonic franchise has been drifting further and further away from this momentum-based gameplay for a while. And I'm not saying that I dislike the boost-style gameplay, that style of Sonic game is super fun, just in a bit of a different way. But this game is just a huge breath of fresh air. This game, well, demo, is pretty much perfect. I can't really think of any real complaints, and I cannot wait for them to finish this. Please, please finish it soon. Release more levels, I want more. And I want this to be the basis for an official Sonic game. This game is the ultimate proof of concept. 3D Sonic, open world, so fun. Now let's move on. Okay, so first I talked about some games, and then that last one was a demo. Let's go one level deeper. An engine! Not even a demo this time, but an engine that somebody made. The Sonic Infinity engine. This engine is fun. It is very good, very impressive. While Sonic Utopia was kind of a realization of the classic momentum style of gameplay, this game seems to be a realization of the boost style of gameplay. You can boost, homing attack, light speed dash, stop, quick step, run over water, fly through the air. And I know this may sound like hyperbole, like maybe I'm throwing too much praise at this tech demo, but I honestly think that the boost style of Sonic gameplay has never felt better than this. Everything about this just feels good to me. It controls great. And it looks great. Motion blur, particle effects, it's very shiny and pretty. Granted, this is a very controlled environment, a big, relatively empty test room. Some tweaking and polishing would probably be necessary to make this game work well in an actual level. But still, this is great. I love the subtle slowdown when killing enemies, the way Sonic swings his legs when flying through the air. Hell, all of Sonic's animations are great. When he lands on the ground, he does a little roll, he leans to the side slightly when turning, and then there's Shadow. He's so edgy and cool, guys. He glows red. And when he sidesteps, he doesn't step at all, he just teleports. And when you boost, he hovers over the ground. He can't even be bothered to move his legs. This engine is not 100% perfect, despite how cool Shadow is. There was this one time that I glitched and just flew into the air. This is the only glitch that I came across, but it still happened. And also, going around these loops doesn't really work well. This definitely needs a lot of tweaking. I couldn't actually get over a single loop a single time. But past that, there's really not much to complain about. Sadly, the guy who made this engine has stopped working on it. He had no plans to expand it to a bigger project or anything, he was just doing it for fun. I really hope that somebody else takes what this guy started and makes something out of it, a full game. Like, let's get a Sonic Mania style game going, except 3D. Get on it, Sega. Alright, so last year I took a look at a couple of Sonic games on Newgrounds, so I say let's do it again. Let's just type in Sonic and pick the first game we find. That seems like a good idea, not a bad one. The first game is called Ultimate Flash Sonic. It's a side-scroller and it seems to be based on the art style and presumably the gameplay of the Sonic Advance games. But I honestly haven't played those games, so I can't really compare. I can only judge this game alone. And alone, it's honestly really good. Like, surprisingly really good. Like, it's short, it's only 2 zones, so 4 levels and 2 bosses in total. But the physics feel very good. The controls are very tight and responsive. The graphics and music, though obviously lifted from official Sonic games, are still good. This is very impressive for a Flash game, and I mapped my keyboard to a USB controller to play this, so it honestly just felt like a regular Sonic game to me. I could very easily forget that I was playing this on Newgrounds. They did a great job with this. I honestly wish that this game was longer. I wanted to keep playing. Whenever you beat the game as a new character, you unlock a cheat code, and eventually, once you've played through the 4 levels as all 4 characters, you unlock more. Amy and Shadow. The cheats that you unlock can be pretty amusing. Like this one, it just makes it so that your character is behind everything. It's extremely pointless, and it doesn't even really look very good. It's just silly. Though with this glitch, Knuckles can finally properly smell these flowers. I guess something that bothered me is that all of the characters in this game are basically the same, except for Tails and Cream. Tails and Cream can fly, and then the rest of the characters are basically just skins for Sonic. Knuckles can't even glide or climb. It feels weird. Oh, and when you play as Cream and finish a level, Cheese just sort of stays behind. Cream just ditches him. He's just hanging out, I guess. Aside from that, I don't have too many criticisms. Occasionally, I won't make a jump that I feel like I probably should have, and when you're running particularly fast, your character pushes to the right of the screen, making it harder to see what's in front of you. Overall, though, this Flash game is impressive. It was a lot better than I was expecting it to be. You know, I never actually played any of the Sonic Advance games, but after playing this, now I kind of want to. Next year, I'm the king of procrastination. I was actually expecting the Newgrounds game that I picked to be worse and dumber, and possibly funnier to talk about. I guess I'll review one more today before Sonic Month is done. Oh no. So, as you may recall, last year for Sonic Month, I played a game called Sonic Inflation. It was suggested to me by an ex-friend. It had a fair bit of not safe for work content. But all in all, if I'm being completely honest, the game was very self-aware, ridiculous, and legitimately funny at times. Almost like it was a parody of itself. And I was kind of curious to see what the reaction to it would be, since, well, it was called Sonic Inflation, you get it. Well, I've heard your feedback loud and clear, and I know that all of you want to see its sequel, Sonic Inflation 2, and so I will regretfully oblige. And also by you all, I mean you, Arjuna, I'm probably mispronouncing that. Not trying to put you on the spot here, man, but this is kind of, sort of, entirely your fault that this is happening right now. So I hope you're freaking happy with yourself, man. And for those that are squeamish to not safe for work content, I'd recommend bowing out. I saved this for the end so that you wouldn't miss anything, other than the credits, I guess. And if you still don't want to leave, then, I don't know, just watch uncomfortably until then. It's your call. To set the mood before playing this game, and to stall just that little bit longer, let us review the rest of the Newgrounds page for this game, before starting the actual game. First, there's the name, Sonic Inflation 2 Battle. Interesting. I was expecting more lewd subject matters, but this implies that there will be combat in the game. That or it's an obvious reference to Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. Also, apparently if I wish for the creator to actually hear my criticisms, it seems like I'm gonna have to rate this game at least 4 stars. Noted. If this isn't something you're into, well, you can get the heck out. Okay, yeah. Actually, no, wait. This is my room. Plus, I'm sort of committed at this point. So, yeah, alright, enough stalling. Here we go. Sonic Inflation 2 Battle. The very first line is telling us that we're apparently searching for Shadow. Why? I have no idea. It's never explained. So we're playing as Sonic, we go to a bar, and there we meet Vanilla the Rabbit, who asks us if we'd like a beer. This is when we're given several choices, but it doesn't matter what you pick. The responses will play out exactly the same. It'd be better if it played out like in the previous game, where there were slightly different responses and maybe even a different outcome. Take this choice, for example. Vanilla asks what brings us around these parts, and with these 3 incredibly unique choices, I'd hope to see different conversational paths to add replayability. My imagination went wild reading these different options, thinking of the radically different outcomes that there could be, only to be treated to the same response. Disappointing. Eventually, we return to her home, and despite my best efforts, it looks like this night is leading to... you know what it's leading to. Vanilla mentions that she's worried that her daughter might walk in on the pair, which is incredibly subtle foreshadowing to the fact that her daughter does walk in on the pair. But anyway, the night continues and... oh god. No, 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 no! I am not putting that uncensored on my YouTube channel. I am not losing my monetization. I may have already lost my monetization. Just so you know, for the record, there's no actual nudity at all in this game. If there was, I wouldn't be playing it. But even so, I'm going to spare you from seeing this, just in case some of you ignored that not safe for work warning. Oh god, why was this unavoidable? Alright, I admit it. I knew that picking Rouge in the last game was grotesque, so I avoided doing it. And I picked Amy. I'm a weak man, okay? I didn't want to see that crap. But this time, there's no safety line. I was just thrown into the deep end without a life jacket. Alright, moving on. It gets worse, and then the namesake of the game happens, and I'm afraid this is probably my favorite joke in the game. What awful timing. Vanilla asks you to continue your gross little activity, and then these are your options to respond with. This is some Doki Doki Literature Club humor right here. This actually made me laugh out loud. I just wish that I could have been spared the imagery and subject matter that came bundled with it. Alright, we're lingering too long in this game. Vanilla dies, Cream walks in, and then Sonic flees out the window. He decides to go visit Knuckles in prison, an old friend of his who was imprisoned for life in the last game because of Sonic. The entire point of this visit is just to taunt this man. I kind of feel like this isn't how friends are supposed to treat each other, gloating that they ruined your life by pinning their crimes on you. But, well, when in Rome. Alright, enough of that. Sonic goes back to the bar, and you actually get a chance to just talk to a bunch of random characters. There's no real reason for any of this, other than to just have some funny interactions. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm already spending way too much time on this game. Though I will point out that when you talk to Manic, he plays you a song from his band's new album. And it's basically just a song about how Sonic abandoned him and his sister, and how they never found their long-lost mom because of it.
You left us, and we never found the mom. Got into inflation, now you're real long gone.
Really makes me feel for our amazing protagonist. The next morning, Sonic goes back to the prison to find that Knuckles has dyed his hair blue. Now that's what I call a character arc. In response, I'm given the option to confess all of Sonic's crimes. If only I was given the option not to do exactly that. And so, apparently, confessing to your horrible crimes out loud in a prison isn't a good idea. And it's back to the Ace Attorney parody. Not much to say on this, though. It's pretty much the exact same thing that happened last time. It's pretty funny. Shadow and Eggman just berate Sonic the entire time, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And you end up back in jail. It's all very much the same thing as last time. But hey, at least the game references that fact. But pointing out that you reused several story elements doesn't really change the fact that you reused several story elements. Was the creator really just so compelled to create a sequel that he forced himself to cut corners like this? Is it that due to the vapid success of the first installment, the creator wished to make this game simply because he knew that he'd have an inherent fanbase? What is more important? passion, or an audience? Should a series really continue and deteriorate in quality over time just for the sake of more likely success? I suppose there is no wrong answer, and that each individual just has to make their own choice. Sorry, where was I? I mean, that's pretty much it. Sonic stabs Knuckles with a katana that just so happens to be there in this jail cell. It makes sense. We are then treated to an ending cutscene that teases a new original character for the third game, a genetically engineered clone, half Amy, half Knuckles, Knamy the Hedgehog. Simply brilliant. We're also shown imagery of an electric chair. Here's hoping that Sonic dies in it, and that the next game won't have any inflation in it because of that. Oh yeah, and during the credits we're treated to an entirely new rendition of Manic's song.
You left us, and we never found our mom. Got into inflation, now you're real long gone.
It's beautiful. It's truly a piece of art. Overall, I've gotta say that, just like the first game, this game is actually a pretty funny mess. If you can get through the more grotesque moments at the start of the game, and if you found any of this funny, it might be worth 10 minutes of your time. Honestly, despite the name, this is really just a fun little fan game clearly made to troll the player. And contrary to what I'm sure is popular belief, I'm sorry, I know you were all thinking it, but this game just doesn't really hold a candle to Mario Odyssey. I'm sorry, the comparison just isn't there. Oh, and by the by, my speedrun record for this game is 3 minutes and 32 seconds. Beat that! Now, there is a third game to this series, and as I've already established, if even one of you comments telling me to play this game, I'll probably do it. But just know that if you do, you will be at fault for whatever havoc may ensue. So, just know that. It'll be entirely on you. Everything, 100%, your fault. So while you mull that over, I think I'm gonna be done. I think I'm gonna be done for now. All in all, I actually played a lot of really fun games today. So I hope you enjoyed these Sonic videos. I'll be back with something different next time. So until then, I'll see you later, everyone.